All right, we are back. We got a gentleman from Minnesota with us today. His name is Keith Collins. He's one of those guys who has been an awesome customer of ours and has turned into one of my good friends that I'm talking to almost on a daily basis. So, Keith, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm excited to have you on.
I'm happy to be on. Shoot, yeah. Apologize for the daily talking, but it's always good talking to you guys.
No, it's always good stuff. And Kevin, you've recently had a couple conversations with him, and
Yeah,
you've turned
no,
to me and been like, "Why do we not have him on the podcast?"
right. I mean, just all positive. I love your attitude, and you're really your passion for the business.
Well, and
And
I gotta say before we jump into like business and all that, like being on the same podcast as Sean Merriman is like a whole thing for me because growing up a San Diego Chargers fan with Philip Rivers, LT and him and
Antonio
BJax,
Gates,
like
right?
being on the same podcast, it's like a surreal moment.
Oh, for sure.
oh, that's cool.
It's good to hear that. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll call up Sean and send him something.
Oh, he'll love this. Yeah. As long as you're not talking about the Raiders,
Yeah.
then he's good.
Oh no, heck, I don't know anybody that likes the Raiders.
Yeah. So for our, people, obviously, folks that are farmers agents and DMs that are listening to this, they know your role. They probably know who you are at this point. You've done amazing things with farmers as a district manager, but with your role, people who are outside of farmers, talk a little bit about what you do and the impact that you're making in the insurance industry where you're at.
Yeah, really my main goal is to be an extension or a thought partner of an agency, recruit and train, really get them up and going to successful businesses, get them started on the right foot, the right habits. And it's helping them instill the right processes from the start. Because I see so many times people can treat it as a sales role when
Yeah,
really you have a business opportunity out there.
So true.
absolutely.
It's so much more than just selling, right? I mean, you're building a business. You're bringing in people that you can upgrade their lives and contribute to so many, like all the clients. So, totally agree.
Absolutely.
It's more of an entrepreneur than just selling a policy.
Well, and there's so many different ways you can take it too. Like I love that it's not just one size fits all. It's like you could hire somebody for each line of business, or you could say, hey, I'm gonna have the majority here and a specialist over here. That like you get to design it the way you want and can kind of make the tweaks as you build it too. So
Yeah.
I obviously I'm hyper obsessed and I'm biased with it, but it's just freaking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just for again those who don't know what a farmers district manager is, there's only a couple hundred out there in the country, and Keith is responsible. He has a group of agents under him. How many agents do you oversee, Keith, at this point right now?
About 35 and about 100 licensed producers.
Awesome. And so you've been growing, and where were you at? Let's just say a year and a half ago or 2 years ago.
Well, I know the numbers from 3 years ago. We were
How
at
about 3 years ago?
about 50. So we've doubled the size of this in
Wow.
short form. And but yeah, at the same time, I always say I don't sell a single policy. So these guys, I honestly my district, I give them all the credit. They're hiring the people, putting in the work. I just put the infrastructure behind them to just be amazing cheerleaders and give them good thoughts, and then they give me the feedback and we tweak it together.
That's really cool. What are some of the maybe the pitfalls of an agent that's starting? Maybe a common thread or a common trait that they have that you would give advice to, or maybe
It's
to look out for.
yeah, ROI. So
Okay.
ROI conversations are not happening enough in our industry, whether it's around leads, whether it's around staff, and putting it all together, right? Because when you have, if you're paying a person X amount to work a lead that costs X amount, well, heck, you have two different costs there built in before you've even gone to sold and figure out what that looks like. That's what I love about what you guys have in Ideal Traits, is because we can talk about spending $50 on an Indeed post. Well, heck, if you find somebody that produces X amount of premium, you can break it down right there, right then for them. And the ROI is incredible, right? Versus
Yeah.
they just see it on paper, they go on direct to Indeed and they don't know. And we can kind of go through a lot of things, but when it comes down to it, they're not getting the business ownership aspect of it. It could just be sell, sell, sell. really, I want them to know, hey, this is what an auto and a home looks like. This is what the impact to your agency looks like. This is how you stack it and really build something.
That's really good. I mean, without hesitation, ROI. I love that. And it is so true. There's things that they're spending money on that they could potentially be losing money, and other things they don't even realize how much they're actually gaining. And, one of the calculators that we have inside our product helps them understand that just because you sell a policy today, I'll make up a number for $1,000, and you pay a commission of 100, and maybe you got 90, but you paid 100, you're going to get paid 9 more times. And that policy is going to go up in value, right? So by the 9th time they pay, it could be $1,600, and you could be getting 140.
And did that help your bonus too?
Right. And then you might, you're probably not paying commission to that person again on that 9th renewal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like every sale equals so much more than that initial paycheck.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many different ways you can take it, like you're saying. And I mean, there's different layers to it too, right? New business, renewal, how much you have new business. I would tell anybody in our industry, like coming, whether it's the life side or a PNC in life, that you got to focus on what the new business looks like in order to sustain revenue for you. So that way you can keep building a team or something adjacent to that and really multiply it versus just running yourself into the ground trying to sell, right?
For sure.
Something.
Again, another shameless plug for you guys. You guys make it easy with the personality profiles and all that. So I'm glad we're leveraging it.
Yeah, it's actually funny with Keith. Like, it's almost like he knows more than me now, right? I'm like, Keith, I didn't know that was there. He's like, yep, you guys just added it 30 minutes ago. I'm like, what the heck? This guy, man.
Well, he's got a backup plan.
100%. No, people come to Keith for questions because he's such a power user of Ideal Traits. It's awesome. And Keith, you're a big spreadsheet guy. I know that.
Mhm.
What are some spreadsheets that you keep on hand with recruiting that's helping you become more strategic with your recruiting, right? Really hone in on what you're recruiting for.
Yeah, really, I think for me, it's the success ratio. And I think in our industry, we try to figure out where it's coming from, right? Is it a licensed person already? Is it a mortgage lender? Is it a real estate person?
Yeah.
And you get this hodgepodge of answers. I think for me, it's how they're recruited is much more interesting to me, and what their profiles look like, because I've seen much more direct correlation to there. So I know just, hey, turn the volume up at that point if we're seeing a trend on that. And I don't know if that completely answers the question, but yeah, looking for
No.
more closers, more persistence, more salesperson, sales leaders. So that way we can really get things going there. And then on the service side, if we need some of those other profiles.
So you target those 4 top sales profiles on Ideal Traits: sales leader, closer, salesperson, and persistent.
Yeah, anything with high drive. I mean, I'm biased because I tested well in the high drive, but I love the high drive personalities because I found that even if they make mistakes, they'll speed through to the next thing and try to correct that mistake, versus some of the other profiles won't call them out, but there'll be paralysis by analysis, or they'll do everything you asked of them, but
Yeah.
nothing more. The high drive is just endless. It just goes.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was on a conversation actually this morning with someone talking about the profile, the outcome, and the performance index. And they're like, we'll just break it down in the simplest form. I said, listen, if you're looking for sales, and if you look under pressure, that top number, that's almost a percentage. This is just me. That's not scientific, but that's like your percentage of success. So if you got a 45, you got a 45% chance. You got a 65, 65%. It's getting better and better and better, and put the odds in your favor.
100%.
So,
I would add too, if you see them differ greatly between like under pressure and then like self and other perception, I always found that usually that person's under a great deal of stress. I tend to ask
it's
them
true.
in the interview, just how are you doing, right? Try to tee it up that way. So see why they're making the move, because somebody with high stability making an industry change, well, that doesn't really shout out like great success, right? They
Yeah.
might just be looking for a move because of something happening at the end of the day.
That's great. So, one thing that I know that you are excellent at is helping the agents hire and not taking it all on yourself and having them be completely dependent on you. So maybe talk a little bit about, how you do that, how you balance and,
Yeah.
maybe like what role they have and how you guys work
How you
together.
set it up, right? From the
Yeah.
initial, right when you got that agent on board, when you bring them in, how do you have that communication of what the next steps are with recruiting?
Yeah, I think my old DM, Mark Lee, really set it up well for me because I got the perspective of working in the district too. And he would hand out some profiles or resumes sometimes, and the agent just wouldn't do anything with it. And I'm like, why is that? Like, this person's great. They're 5-time salesperson of the year or whatever. And they look at it and he's like, every agent likes their own ice cream flavor, right? You can toss out vanilla to everybody. It's the best selling flavor of all time, but each one likes Rocky Road or cookie dough. So really what I wanted to do differently was really set them up to find their own flavors, right? To find, okay, this is exactly what I want my agency. Here's what I'm going to recruit for. And it gives them a target too, right? So it gets them in the right habits, not even knowing, but they're looking at, okay, I need a bilingual person because there's a high percentage of people that speak another language in a given area. Or, hey, I'm looking for somebody with an automotive background because I'd love to leverage referral partners in that. And so they get more descript. And I've always found riches are in the niches, specific is terrific. And then I
I never heard that.
copy that with, if you say everybody, you get referred to nobody, right? So when it comes down to all of that, getting these guys targeted, thinking of their ideal person, man, it happens that much. I won't say that much faster, but easier is probably a better way. They know what they're looking for. They're very intentional about it. They're very deliberate in their processes, and that's where again I'll go back to you guys. You guys act as a weapon for them to do that because now they have a personality profile. They know their person is that they want has needs high drive, and now they can look at the resume, they can see the short answers and kind of even vary it up from there. So I don't know if that answers the question entirely, but just a long-winded way to say intentionality is probably the biggest key.
Yeah.
That analogy of the ice cream is something I'm going to use. That's a good one.
That really is.
And then you're saying about the fish. What is the fish thing that you always say? With if you give them too many fish,
Well, instead of giving them a fish each time, it's like teach them how to fish. And then that way they're working for it and they understand like what it takes to get it. Otherwise they're like, well, I'm hungry. Like, give me a fish. And you'd be like, no,
Keith, yeah.
here's a fishing rod. Like there's a rod and a reel right there. Let me show you how to use it. And then they're using it because in your case, how many agents in your district do you have signed up for Ideal?
I believe 21 or 22 now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got a few more coming aboard too that I got to talk to you guys about at some point. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, when it comes down to it, it's a no-brainer, right? I mean, farmers partners with you guys for obvious reasons. So why wouldn't an agency want to use it at that same token? It really helps them. It's integrated. I mean, you guys connect to Zapier, LinkedIn now. So there's so much you can do with it, and I can imagine there'd be so much more in the future. But also love the recruiter platform you have because I think it's perfect for what I'm doing to help these guys. Really, when it comes down to it, I keep up on like Indeed's keywords, things of that nature, and help them set it up. I'm not doing anything crazy, right? I'm just making sure it's compliant and
Yeah.
fitting the code. But I think too many agents psych themselves out just to get started on that pathway that they go, no, I'm good. Like, I know I need to hire, but I'll do it through referral or I'll do it through XYZ. And just it kind of kicks the can down the road where this is a nice starting point. You get them started and then I don't want to say it's like a game, but it's a game after that. They're trying to find their people.
And hope that they work out.
Yeah. They don't want to be on hopium.
No.
Absolutely.
The hopium is the drug that makes you think like, I hope this is gonna work. I hope they'll
Cross
work
your
out.
fingers.
I hope.
Yeah.
Well, along those lines too, I tell them that the number two trait right after, or number two ideal trait rather, after that is firing, right? So right after hiring, you got to holding them accountable. I mean, if they're not hitting the metrics in a high performance sales culture, you're not doing them a service by keeping them around anyway. If they're not growing to hit the targets or you're seeing the effort, you're bringing down the rest of your team. So I emphasize that just as much as I do finding the people at the end of the day. As weird as that sounds.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
What were you doing before Farmers? Back up a little bit.
Oh, before farmers, man, that's a long time ago.
You look young though, Keith.
Oh, hey, checks in the mail. Uh, yeah, no, 11 or 12 years ago, I was in upstate New York. So I sold cars for Nissan.
Hey.
So I did that. Worked at a furniture store for a minute. Um, and before that, coaching football part-time too. So always loved the competition, love the sales aspect of things.
Yeah.
Really any retail job always drove me nuts. Like I worked at Target for a bit, and I could just tell you stocking shelves isn't my thing because you don't get to. It's not like you get X much more for putting the 91st can on the shelf, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found more jobs should probably incentivize that way, but I don't think we'll ever get there. But that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you that. So, based on all that sales background, which is interesting because I was in car sales, my partner too, was in car sales. He did actually furniture sales.
Yeah, he
as
did
well.
at Art Van.
Yeah. But what do you find, or what would you tell that new insurance sales producer that the top performers do this, and you need to, do this? Like these are the couple things that you need to do, and what I see in all top producers.
Yeah, and it depends on where they're coming from in the car space. Because if they're a car salesman or a finance manager, I usually tell them, like, imagine you own the whole car lot now. Like you own your own agency. That at that point you can have as many people as you want. You have an infinite inventory, right? Because policies aren't limited. There's not a cap on how many you can sell.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it, putting them in the right mindset, if you will, because the last thing I want to do is have them run on a hamster wheel, if you will, of just sell, 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 sell. I want them to be able to scale their business, put people like them, and usually they can talk to it too, because obviously in our industry we get renewals. Whereas if you're in the car industry, you're relying on people walking on the lot and good surveys all the time. Where here you're just doing best by the customer, and as long as they renew, which is very low effort for them,
Yeah.
you're getting another commission down the road.
What I see too is like some usually doesn't have to do with how good the business owner is at sales, but it has to do with like the staffing, their processes in place. The ones that are less stressed are able to take more vacations, hitting their numbers, exceeding their numbers. Yeah, it doesn't have like the person who is very stressed out and typically maybe complaining too about the carrier that they serve. But they're like kicking themselves, right? They might be a great salesperson, but they can't recruit at a high level, or they don't want to, and that's why there's a chance they're not at where they want to be.
Right. And I always equate it to as well, our industry changes and it's changing at a rapid pace, right? So much so that 2 years from now will look completely different than 2 years prior. And when it comes down to that, dealing with that all by yourself, that's one, a lonely place to be. But two, it's almost an impossible place to be, because if you're doing that for a 5, 10, 15-year extended time frame, man, you're going to burn out so hard, or just work yourself into an early grave, if you will. Whereas if you're building the team, you're doing the right things. I mean, it's not that it's stress-free, but it's a different type of stress. It's a lot better when you have people that are focused on different tasks, specializing within an agency. You become more of I was going to use a word I don't even know, the orchestra person with the
Yeah.
maestro. Is that it?
I got no clue.
I think it might be the
Not even
maestro.
gonna try.
Here I'm just trying to use words.
I was gonna say violin or something. What they were doing? What the heck?
Conductor.
Oh, the conductor.
Right.
Sure.
Conductor. There we go.
Okay, we know that word.
Shoot.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, but with you, like, how do you help your agents with like culture, for example, right? Like insurance, sometimes people think it's boring, right? How do you help them get a good culture at their office, or what advice do you give your agents to help make it more of a fun environment?
Well, I let them know insurance is boring, right? Like when you look at it at face value, it's just like money. You could call money boring.
Sure.
Most people don't call it boring though,
Yeah.
because they don't see really when it comes down to it, there's a lot of different things to look at, right? Our job is to protect people in their greatest time of need. That's huge. On top of that, you can build a business, give back to your community. That's huge. And with farmers, you can really help transition this to kids over time and really help build a legacy generationally within the agency.
Right.
So there's so many different aspects you could look at. It's really starting with their why and why they want to do this. Because if they're telling me, hey, I just want to do this because it's a change of pace, I think usually that's like my red flag. Like, okay, like change of pace to open up a business is a big change of pace, right?
Yeah. Right.
Where if they're like, no, I want to build this so 10 years, 20 years from now I can retire and I want to be able to give back to my community and this whatever the reason is, as long as it has a solid foundation behind it, that's more exciting to me, and it's easier to rest your head at night on those hard days when a customer's told you no 10 times, or you have the rate conversations or things of that nature, right? It's easier to go back to your why versus I go back to the change of pace comment. Like change of pace isn't going to get you through a few hard months.
What do you do to foster the growth within I mean, you can I probably identify the agents that want to grow and get better and continue to, expand. I know for me, when I was an agent, one thing that was really important to do is always try to find myself in the right room. So in the beginning, it's like I just wanted to find myself in the room with the top producers in our little district, and then more into the state, and then into the region, and then into the country. And then when I found myself, there's totally different conversations that were happening, just to be able to learn and to think differently. Because if we keep, only dealing with, the agent down the street that's not doing well, and we're having breakfast with that person, that's not going to foster growth.
Absolutely. And I give it to our district here. They're very collaborative. They share everything. And that I wouldn't say that's like an everywhere thing, because there's places where people just hide in their silos and I got a good marketing idea, it's mine. Like I give these guys so much credit because when it comes down to it, they'll share everything. Like, hey, look at my mortgage protection letter, and they'll want feedback on it too. So I find that's to what you're saying very good. And I always my kind of my map to find those people is always the leaderboard, right? So you look up the top of the leaderboard, it's like I want to talk to that person.
Yeah.
And because usually they're doing the things I want to do. And you can always tweak it when you get there, but looking at those type of things, like you guys probably know Mike Vandermeulen. Like I pick his brain a ton because I think he's the best at what we're doing today. And I don't shy away from saying that. I pick his brain. Like I want to know every aspect of like,
Yeah.
okay, what are they eating from lunch? What are they doing like next Saturday? Like to
Yeah.
tell me every little detail, because the more you can copy and paste that, I mean, like you're saying, it's a culture thing. The agents want to do that as well, right? They don't want to stay stagnant. They don't want to just sell 30 or 50,000 premium, whatever it is. They want to go to 100, 150, 200 places that haven't been gone before. So, yeah, I think I've repeated a lot of what you just said, but yeah, finding that right room is so important. I mean, that's why I love talking to you guys too, because you guys get a good perspective of the whole industry.
Yeah.
Like you know who's using this the right way or the wrong way, or everything in between, and it leads to better conversations, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we feed off of each other for sure. And shout out Mike. Yeah, I saw that on Facebook. You hear he's been doing amazing things, and he's been a customer of ours for quite some time now. But seeing that he actually, he won that award again, and his accomplishments is pretty awesome. He's actually right here in Michigan. I gotta shoot him a text or something. So
Well, and the thing you'll notice about Mike too is he doesn't shy away from sharing. He
Yeah.
will donate
Yeah.
his time. I mean, I'm in several group texts with him. I'm sure if I picked up my phone right now that
Yeah.
there's 20 different groups that were like, "Hey, have you tried this?" Or "Hey guys, we're excited about like we're all buzzing off of coming from the national leadership conference. Like we're all excited about farmers' future. You see the good, strong leadership like that stuff like fires good people up.
I think top producers, I think they get it and they learn that, if the more you share, you're just going to make it better for yourself and everybody else. And there's enough people out there. Like maybe I can see not sharing your best marketing strategy or lead source with the person who is 2 miles down the road. Okay. With the exception of that, right? The more you share, it'll come back to you. And quite frankly, unfortunately, a lot of people won't even do it. They hear it and they're like, oh man, that sounds hard or that sounds expensive. And then they continue on their same path. But when you share, you allow, I think, your own organization to expand and grow and to learn right along with that other agent that you're providing help for. And you'll get, because you get it back in return. There's something that they have that they're doing that you're not doing, and they can help you with that. But it's certainly not going to take away from what you have. And
Well
those agents
said.
that do, I think, are just small-minded, right? And I just don't think they can probably see the forest through the trees on that.
Agreed. It's the abundance versus the scarcity, right? It's
Yeah.
just like you take all the premium dollars in Minnesota. Is there enough out there for everybody?
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? When you come down to it. And those with the scarcity mindset, I've always found they're working off the least amount. They're trying to spend the least. They're
Yeah.
like everything is least, 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 least. Where you have these guys in the abundance mindset. They're like, okay, what more can I add to this?
Yeah.
Let's try another thing. Let's try another staff member. Uh, and yeah, I could ramble on, but it's just cool to see.
Yeah. It's crazy. Even like the largest Allstate insurance agency in the country, debatably one of the top, will take out the largest loan. And you're like, well, wait, why? Well, it's invested all back in just to double down, right? And then you've got the small person who won't take out a loan to hire more people, to buy more leads, to get to that level. So, I mean, it's just a total mindset.
Oh yeah, and I would want somebody to know too, because everybody's at different stages, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I hear that like, oh well, he's the largest, so that's of course that's why he's taking out
Yeah.
the loan. And it's like no, I look at somebody like Vlad, right? Vlad started
Jadenko.
from
Yeah.
scratch a year ago, and he had a $500,000 month. And shout out to him. I mean,
Yeah.
you could have argued, well, he didn't have an existing book, so that like he did it all by himself. I guess what I'm trying to say there is at any point, as long as you have that mindset, like you can absolutely just break it wide open. I just had one gal here, I'll shout her out just shamelessly, Yanellis, who broke 75,000 for the first time. And that was so cool to see because it hadn't been done in here,
Yeah.
right? And just seeing all her like the agents in our district just cheer her on, like
that's
that was
cool.
so cool
That's
too.
great.
Like powerful stuff can come from that because I'm like that's just the start for her, for the district, for a lot of things, and it get like I get emotional when I talk about that stuff because it's like that's somebody's life, like
Yeah.
that's somebody's livelihood just getting better because they did the right things.
Yeah. Keith, that's just a reflection on you. It's just what
No.
makes you such a great leader is just your passion and your care, like genuine. Like you're not serving them just to be selfish about it because you'll make more in return. You like that'll come if you serve them properly, and if you take care of them and help them, then it'll all come back to you. And so hats off to you for that, for being a great leader.
I
They're lucky to
appreciate
have
that.
you.
Those are very kind words, and I will try to earn them. But
Oh, you've already.
and no, and when it comes down to you kind of said it indirectly too. You're surrounded, you you are who you surround yourself with. So again, whether it's your staff members, whether it's other agents you're talking to, whether it's other district managers you're talking to, I can tell you the conversations are completely different with somebody that's doing really great than somebody that's just like, oh, this is all going downhill. Like
Right.
you spend enough time around one or the other, you're gonna go the way they're going.
Yep.
100%. Ha, jinx. We both don't drink Coke, so we're not gonna.
No.
So got a couple minutes left. Keith, what are you focusing on this year that might be new, something different that you're starting to focus on, whether it's for your agents or yourself? Give us something we can take home.
Really, I'm trying to hit three different parts, and it's the recruiting aspect, right? So it's staffing them properly.
Okay.
It's the marketing piece, figuring out what line of business they want to start on, because I found if you start on a lesser known line of business, so like auto and home is usually the commonality between everybody, but if you start on something different, usually you're going to circle your way back to auto and home at some point. So I'm trying to get that mindset in. And then the budgeting and ROI conversations. So that way they know, hey, if I'm spending 1,000, I can make 5,000. Wrapping those all three together and seeing how they work in tandem is something I really want all my agency owners. Heck, I wish for the whole industry that it was just talked about more. Like Jeff, when we were talking the other day, you're like, how did you get a bunch of agents to sign up for a deal trade? So I'm
Yeah.
like, it's like a no-brainer, right? Because I'd go
Yeah.
through the ROI and I'm like, yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
It's just that conversation is not happening in our industry, in a lot of industries, sadly. I mean, because we don't have inventory, quote unquote. I consider leads inventory, but we don't have a tangible like thing you can
Right.
touch. And when you don't have that, it's harder to imagine, okay, if I'm spending $1, how am I making 5?
Yeah. That's a good point.
So long-winded answer to get those three in the perspective of how they work all together.
That's great.
That's what we wanted to hear, though.
That was great.
100%. And then last thing, you're talking to an agent who, let's just say they're struggling. A lot of it is maybe because it's just been different the last couple of years with insurance. What would you coach them on? Like, would it be mindset, the first thing you want to coach them on? And what would be your words for them?
Yeah, I would say, and I'm guilty of it myself. So like I'll be the first to call myself out. Like I get negative sometimes, and I realize it's what I'm focusing on. But when you're focused on like everything that's wrong with the industry or wrong with the carrier or whatever it is, like you're gonna drive yourself nuts. And hate to say it, but it's a you problem at that point, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you focus on like, wow, I could get this bonus, or wow, I can focus on this market that has potentially like hundreds of billions of dollars, then that becomes much more exciting. And then it's much more, you can gamify it. You can say, okay, how do I market to 1,000 motorcycle riders, or how do I market to 5,000 boat owners? And that's much more exciting than saying, oh, well, here's this problem over here. It's just the way it is. And I find those, again, it goes back to who you're surrounding yourself with. Usually your thoughts are inclined from the people around you. So if somebody's telling you, yeah, this is terrible, you'll think it's terrible. If they say, oh wow, this is great, we have a huge opportunity here, then that's what much more what you're likely to believe with the power of suggestion.
True. Love it.
Thanks for today,
awesome.
man. Not only did you give us good motivation, but like powerful insight. And
Well,
how to
heck,
think
I'm just
differently.
copying and pasting. Honestly, I watch so much Tony Robbins
Yeah.
and David Goggins, stuff like that, and you just pick and choose. Like Herm Mosey's the one I've been addicted to lately.
Huh.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I mean, when you listen to that stuff, it's hard to just focus. Like it gets you focused on the right things.
Have you listened to Ed Milet?
Ed
before?
Milet,
Ed
yep.
Milet's really good.
Oh yeah, there's so much good stuff out
Yeah.
there. Like, and it doesn't have to be insurance specific. Like, I would tell anybody that owns a business or just wants to get better, like focus on the self-growth stuff. There's so much of it out there. So if it's not your flavor, right? Like
Right.
David Goggins is always just yelling like, "Oh, come on,
Yeah,
yeah."
Yeah.
Like, if that's not your flavor, you can
Not
go
for
to
everybody.
a Mel Robbins, right?
Yeah.
Where hers is much more softer. It's still the same message, but
Oh, yeah.
it's like, hey, yeah, why don't we get out of bed today?
5 second
Yeah.
rule, right? 5 seconds.
I'll take
Make it
David
happen.
before the gym, but other than that, I think I'm all set.
My personal favorite, if you
yeah.
guys have time for it, I would say watch Good by Jocko Willink. I'm obsessed with that 2-3 minute video. I would probably watch it once every week, just because it applies to everything, right? And so much so that my old producer made me a canvas and it's my face and that's the word good next to it.
Oh,
Because when
nice.
anything bad happens, it's good, right? It's an opportunity to get better. It's an
Yeah.
opportunity to work past it. And they list a bunch of things that could go wrong, but you just answer good, and it's the opportunity there.
Love it.
How can our audience connect with Keith Collins?
My cell phone's probably the best way. 518-951-9483. My email is kcollins2@farmersagent.com. But yeah, and it doesn't have to be insurance focused. It can be anything. I genuinely like to connect with people. I mean, it's fun seeing people win, whether it's insurance, it's automotive.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a big friend into hunting and fishing, so that's seeing him, and I know nothing about it. I'm like, oh, cool, big fish. Like,
Yeah. That's
so
cool.
great.
Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate your time. Great insights, and I know that our listeners are going to love to gain insight from you today. Appreciate
absolutely, I appreciate you guys thinking of me, and like I said, it truly is a surreal moment because like I grew up watching Sean Merriman doing the lights out.
that.
Like that's pretty cool. I know you guys have had him on, so.
Yeah.
I can see you pounding some kids in the football field too.
Oh, when I was, believe it or not, I was a lot lighter in my high school years. So like I used to do the LT, like the
Oh yeah.
the
Whatever he
touchdown
did.
celebration,
Yeah.
like there we go. Don't get to do it as much anymore, but
Yeah. Thanks,
Great.
Keith. Appreciate you, man.
appreciate you.
Yep.
Have a good one.